Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Another year of the Premier League and FPL. Here on the CØntcast, our preseason one to start the year off. I'm Swan. Just going left to right on my board, we can introduce ourselves. We have Trig.
Good evening.
JK.
Hi, guys.
Bowstring.
Hey, everyone.
And Zofar.
Hello.
All right, welcome back. As Trig was saying, summer went by really quick. I think we're all chomping at the bit to get back into FPL next week and get our teams all set. Still a lot of friendlies to go about, so we have some things to still figure out. But have an agenda of some things. Kind of want to go through it one by one, and then we'll take we'll go through other thoughts we may have on the upcoming season. So first thing we have on the agenda is this is contingent if Zaha leaves Chelsea, or Palace, as has been rumored. The choice is really, for those of us who have us on our team, are do we sell him for Arnautovic, King, or another one of the cheap forwards, set to a 4-5 and switch your formation to 3-5-2, or if he goes to like Spurs or Chelsea, do we just stick with it and see what happens? So start, I guess, Trig, you want to kind of give your thoughts?
I've actually never had Zaha in any of my drafts, not seriously. I think if he were to go, I don't think he's that difficult to replace. I think there's a lot of people in that 6.5, 7 million slot anyway that you can replace him with. So I wasn't that keen anyway. If he went to Spurs, you could even buy, anybody in that range and then wait and see for a week, 2 weeks. If you need him, then he's always there. So I think especially if he went somewhere to Spurs or Chelsea, I'd be tempted to wait a couple of weeks anyway before buying him. But that's my opinion. I just think he's not the best in that position, like in FPL. I think there's better options than him to start the season with, personally. But I think I'm in the minority.
Who are the options?
Why don't you tell us so?
Sorry, Sean. I was just going to go back to Trig. What options do you think are better than Zaha?
I think, you've got... I only want one cheap striker. I would prefer to have Mitrovic, maybe Austin with their opening fixtures, Tosun as well. I'd pick any of those three over Zaha currently. I'm willing to be proved wrong, but I think I'd prefer to start with one of those three.
Fair enough. Those are three out-and-out strikers. Zaha is, again, might be playing on the wing or behind. So it's a fair point. Sorry, JK.
No, I was just going to say that if you're asking the question to someone else, who do you think better options are? If you haven't got Zaha, and I don't, there presumably is a reason. So who, in your mind, is a better option than Zaha?
Yeah. You have to answer the question.
Well, for me, I'm kind of in agreement with Trig. I mean, I had Zaha last season, but again, he was a midfielder and he was slightly cheaper. At the minute, my three are Aguero, King, and Austin, with a little bit of a contingency in case Austin's not a feasible way to start the season. But you have to look at Tosun. I think Everton will be inclined to be more attacking under Silva than they were under Allardyce, and he's still got goals in an Allardyce team. You've got Arnautovic, again, mixed bag of fixtures, but proven. But even dropping down, King for 6.5, Austin, Mitrovic. I think there's a dearth sort of between Morata at 9 and anyone at 7. You're sort of basically there's just a void there. There's basically nobody. But there's other options that I think maybe, again, if you don't want any of those, I think the temptation is to maybe go 5 million striker and go 3-5-2 and bring in, say, Jota as a 6.5 million option, which is maybe something I might be looking at, but we'll come on to that in a minute.
Next, I think, is Bo.
Yeah, I think I don't think you guys have said anything that I don't agree with there. At the moment, I'm with JK. I have King and Austin. And like we touched on, you could just switch formation and go with a kind of a 6.5 million, 7 million midfielder. I think most of us kind of are looking at Richarlison at the moment, but if you wanted like another option, I think there's some good budget options there. If Pedro looks like starting for Chelsea, maybe he could be worth the punt for the first couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm like JK. I'm on King and Austin at the minute.
So that's interesting. None of you guys have Zaha in your team.
I did until the news, and then I'm now also on King and Austin. I think if you look at it from a perspective, if you're going to move on from him, the options that JK ran over. Pens is always a major factor for me. So who of those options are on Pens? We know Arnautovic is not. Tosin probably is. I don't know if we've seen any confirmation.
Arnautovic might be. The thing is, Noble is the nominated penalty taker there.
Right.
But we don't know, is he going to be starting at the beginning of the season, because they brought Wilshere in. They've brought a couple of midfielders in. We just don't know. So if Noble's not on the pitch, Pens is up for grabs.
That's true.
Do Yarmolenko or the new guy, Anderson, do either of them take penalties? Did they take penalties for their club?
Anderson didn't, because Immobile was the penalty taker for Lazio. I don't know about Yarmolenko, because I don't know who took penalties after Ober left.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think Yarmolenko took them either. So that could very well happen. See, but I think while we're discussing on Arnie, I think Gilbert raised a very good point now in the chat. I think his ceiling, you might get consistency, but how many goals do you expect West Ham to score? Let's say, I'll just go through their fixtures really quick. And I think he does have a low ceiling. You might see him nicking an odd goal away to Arsenal, but do you see him getting a brace?
Yeah, I mean, I've just looked at I've just got his first 7 in front of me, and take away Bournemouth at home, which looks like it could be which is a plum fixture for me.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of mixed bag. I mean, Wolves at home is rated as a 2, very, very green fixture, but
I don't think that is a very
based on the fact but it's based on them being newly promoted rather than anything else.
Yeah. They're a very good defensive team from the stats I have read. 25 clean sheets in the championship is no small achievement. So
I mean, they basically play the entire top 6 in their first 9 games.
Precisely. So every alternate game is a shit fixture.
Yeah.
So that's my point with Arnie. Like, you might get a goal. Let's say in these 9 games, you expect him to get 5, maybe. Is that a realistic estimate?
I would say so.
I think that.
That's a floor, or a ceiling, a low ceiling, perhaps.
That's my main concern with Arnie there. But I do think he's a good option, and he's also a very safe ownership play, because he's very highly owned. He's at what? I think 26% ownership. But do you think he'll play along with Chicharito, 2 strikers? He did that at City a lot.
I mean, that in itself raises an interesting point, because if Cheek is going to be a starter, I mean, he's 6 million.
Yep. Apparently, he's in the squad for tonight. That's what I read.
6.5 million. Sorry, 6.5 million.
So Chicharito is going to get some minutes tonight with a view to get him up to speed for game week 1. I read that.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to be the starting centre forward, there's another option for penalties. That's a potential bargain, because he only needs. I mean, we know what type of player Chicharito is in terms of how he gets his goals.
Yep. So there's a lot of uncertainties there in terms of Arnie. The new guy isn't really a threat. I think he's like someone they signed as someone for the future.
I mean, who they signed that's really a threat?
Nobody. The guy they signed is a kid. That 21-year-old.
Yeah, he's not.
So it's just a Chicharito thing in general. So that's my pretty much view on, I'm just having a look now who are the pretty much, and shall we do an exercise? Shall we put down our top 5 picks on an Excel sheet? I think we did that last time around. I think last season. It's a good idea just to like share with the group. Maybe you can arrive at a good
so someone can. So we can go around. Someone can keep a note on who says what, and we can
Because
go
I think
from
this
there.
is more beneficial than discussing teams. I mentioned it in the group earlier. There's no point discussing individual teams. I think once we establish a pecking order about who we like in goalkeeper, defense, midfielders, strikers, it would be very easy to see like who's the mainstay, who's the second choice, third choice.
Is this on all strikers in general, or just
I mean, we can do cheapies and then we can do premiums after that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think stick to like 7 mil or 7 mil, 6 to 7 mil, because realistically, you've not got much below 6. You've not got much between
We can do similarly for
Zaha,
goalkeepers,
Poston,
defenders,
until you
whatever.
get to Morata.
Mid and like expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that between Morata and sort of 7 mils, there's basically just this random void.
It's only Giroud. Giroud is the only striker between 7 and 9.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep a running Excel if we want to go through best budget strikers first. Say top 5 for each of us. Kate, you want to go?
Sorry,
I said, do we want to keep a list of best strikers, and then I'll keep a list of who does what, who says what?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so top 5 budget strikers. So what do we call them? Budget under 8?
No, yeah, under 8.
Yeah, under 8, because there's literally no one between 8 and 7, so 7 below.
All right. Go ahead. Who do you like?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead. And in order,
Okay,
by the way.
So my number 1 pick would be King.
Yep.
If I was going for my second, I'd probably go for Tosun. Then Austin. Then on out of it. And as my 4th, I'm going to throw out a 3-5-2 option, and I'm going to throw in with the console in his name, Sorloth.
Oh.
Even with Ings in the picture?
Yeah, I mean, right now we have to consider Ings not in the picture. Until he's in the picture, he's not in the picture.
Sorloth can become Ings also, I guess, fair enough.
Yeah, it could be. And again, it's 5-2,
so I think
it's not one you're going to want to start. Okay. All right. Zofa, you want to go?
Yep, I've written down as Zaha. First, my reasoning being, I think Palace last year in the second half of the season, I think they had the best attacking stats. And overall, I think the best stats in most departments outside the top 6. So out of all the cheap strikers, I would argue that Zaha probably plays in the best team. This is pretty much assuming he stays at Palace, of course. Like if he moves somewhere else, then he's not an option for me at all. So Zaha first, then King at second, Austin in third. And that would depend also on the lineup in the friendly. If we see Long starting again with Gabbiadini, with Austin getting 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Dropping Austin in that. Number 4 is Arnie. And at 5 is Tosun.
Sorry, who's 4?
4 is Arnie.
Okay.
And 5 is Tosun.
Tosun. Okay, got it. All right, Trig, you want to go?
Yeah, it's quite close between the top 3, but I think my top 3 will be the out and out strikers for me. So Tosun, Austin, and maybe I'll put King as number 3. So Tosun, Austin, King. Then 4th, I would probably have Mitrovic. I don't think we've mentioned Mitrovic yet, have we?
He was on neither of our.
But I think he's worth a punt. And for number 5, it wouldn't be me if I didn't go for somebody random in there. So I've got a feeling that Gabbiadini might have a good game week 1.
Oh, what's game week 1 without Gabbiadini?
Exactly. And you know what? It's like, if you remember, everyone triple captained Andy Carroll, and then the next season, he would have been the one to triple captain. So he failed last year, Gabbiadini, which means this year he's going to succeed. And apparently he's been the outstanding player for Saints.
Yeah. I think the biggest regret may be that Tadic has joined Ajax. We can't have a pre-season Tadic wagon this year.
Exactly. Gabbiadini's just my Tadic Poorman's replacement.
Nice. Before we go on to Bo, J.O.'s here. Or he was here.
By the way, J.O., Johnny Orphan's joined us.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
I was about to say about Gabbiadini, you said he had a bad last season, but he actually had 2 bad seasons in a row. So I don't think the rule applies here, to be honest.
Yeah. I saw Burbs was on, but he's dropped again, so hopefully he'll keep going.
No, that was Pirlo's 10.
Oh, that's a Pilos. Oh, great. Okay. I thought I saw. Yeah. All right. J.O., just to catch you up, we're going through the agenda. We're trying to get our ideas of who are the best budget strikers for 7 or less, and I'm kind of keeping a sheet so we can post this to the group later. So, Bo, do you want to go?
Yeah. I have Tosun as my number 1. Just because I think Everton have the best fixtures of those kind of teams in the first kind of 6 or 7 weeks. The only concern for me is that apart from that game where Everton won like 22-0 in pre-season, he hasn't really done much. I think the possibility of penalties, whether Sigurdsson's on them, whether Tosun's on them, he might be on them, but I just think Everton will do a lot better than last year. I mean, they had Sam Allardyce there who didn't really get the most out of them. They weren't really playing attacking. You know, with Richarlison there, Sigurdsson back, you just expect that they'll have a lot more goals in them, and I'd expect kind of Tosun to be in kind of a central figure towards the goals. So he'd be my number 1. Number 2 would be Zaha, assuming that he stays with Palace. If not, I'd bump him down the list to probably 5th, if even on the list. 3rd, Austin, just for reasons mentioned that, you know, he might be on penalties. We have to wait and see. I mean, he's 6 million. He's cheap. He can easily be shifted if he's not doing anything. And Southampton have some pretty good fixtures. King then for my number 4. The only thing I don't like about him is that he kind of plays in the hole. But if he is on penalties, I suppose that gives him a bit of an added appeal. And then my number 5, I don't think he's been mentioned, Andre Gray for Watford. Doing well in pre-season. Yeah, you were probably waiting for it. I do like Watford's fixtures, but are they going to get many goals? Probably not. It's kind of hard to call. I mean, they've Brighton at home. That game's kind of hard to call. Brighton are usually solid enough, but I mean, if Watford scored 2 in that game, would he be involved? Maybe. Whether Deeney starts with him, he might have penalties. We don't really know. So there's a lot of kind of question marks about Gray. So that's why I've kind of put him down the list.
Going back to Tosun, would you double up with Richarlison and Tosun?
Yeah, that's the question. I think it depends on what formation I'm playing. Like if I'm playing with 5 midfielders, I might just ditch Tosun and going to get a 6.5 or a 7. I don't know if there's better value in the midfield. Again, like I said, Everton, apart from that 22-0 game or whatever it was, Tosun's not been really showing great signs in pre-season. It's kind of Richarlison has kind of been the key player for them at the minute. So I'd probably be a bit wary about doubling up. The only benefit is that if you do have Tosun as kind of one of the more expensive picks of this budget, you could downgrade him and have a bit of cash left over. That's the only positive, but I don't know if I'd want to double up at the minute until I see something a bit more from him.
I think LR just joined us, but LR, please keep your eyes on the road.
Yeah. It's a weird angle. It almost looks like he's lying down.
So, J.O., do you want to give your top 5 under 7 million strikers in order?
First, I would go with King, probably, purely because of fixtures and because of Bournemouth's attacking intent, in a way. Then probably Arnautovic. His form is just incredible lately. So I would just ignore the fixtures for Arnautovic, just go with him. As I said in the group before, I would probably go with Zaha if he moved away from Palace. Even if he was playing as a winger, because I see a lot of value in 7 million for Zaha. So probably those 3. I would ignore Tosun because I wouldn't feel comfortable with Nias on the bench. I think Bo hasn't mentioned it, but Silva does like Nias. He played him in Hull City as well when he was in charge. And Nias has done very well for Silva in Hull. So I'm not sure whether Tosun plays all the games or if he plays over 70 minutes every game. Whereas Richarlison, we know he plays every single minute under Silva, and it's cheaper as well. So I wouldn't double up, and I will feel much more comfortable with Richarlison than Tosun. So these are my thoughts, really.
I missed 4. Who was 4? I'm sorry.
Again?
After Zaha.
Yeah, not 3.
No, I was saying I would probably ignore Tosun for the reasons I mentioned.
Right, but you have to give us 5 picks. I think you gave us only 3, right?
You gave us King, Arnie, and
you gave
Zaha.
3.
All right, I didn't know I was supposed to give you 5. All right, I would ignore Austin as well. I wouldn't feel comfortable with a Southampton striker. Would maybe, but depends on the Europa League really. Whether they qualify or not.
Well, he also went off. He went off injured at half time last night. Wood.
Was he taken out? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he went off at halftime. There's no further update yet.
Abductor injury.
Oh, there we go.
Well, maybe Danny Ings then, if he moves to Palace. He's 5'5", isn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Ings, and nobody comes to my mind really. So just those 4 really. Yeah, I think so.
Mitrovic.
We'll do 3-5-2.
He drives on the road.
I do like Mitrovic, but he's 1 million or half a million too expensive. I wouldn't start with him. I don't think so.
I think, generally that was the idea why they left him out, because if you priced him up for Newcastle reserve and then he joins Fulham, everyone's gonna.
You're cutting out on us, JK. I think the signal we can't quite get what you're saying.
Oh, here's trouble.
All right, Uber driver.
There you go.
You want to give your thoughts?
I think you should
He's got his
let
microphone off. He's got his microphone off.
We're giving best budget strikers 7 or less. You want to give us your top 5, Blade Riser?
Can you guys hear me clearly? Because I was on mute otherwise. I'm not sure if I can be heard.
Yeah, no, we
I just like King as my number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I like Mitrovic, and that's about it. I don't like anybody else. I used to like Wood a lot because I think he's got amazing statistics, but the Europa League obviously put me off. I don't think there is anybody else in that bracket that we should pick up.
Okay, so I got King 1 on now.
King, is it 7 and under?
Yeah, 7 and under.
Yeah.
I'd put King number 1, Mitrovic 2, Arnautovic number 3, Zaha number 4.
Okay, and then no 5. You want 3-5-2. 5-2.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to follow TFF and go with Wilson, then you can put him at 5.
Chelsea.
We're running out of space on the bottom of the screen here.
Jossie, you got to put your stuff on mute.
Yeah, Jossie and Lay Rising, if you want to put your stuff on mute, if you're not talking.
Is already on. Jossie needs to mute.
Has somebody got a baby with them?
It looked like Jesse was on a plane or something.
Yeah.
Really crying behind.
I'll give mine real quick. I have King up at the top. I think unless we get a better idea that he's not going to be playing in the role he's been playing, I think the fixtures are just too good, especially the first 3. I got Alston 2 right now. Caveat: I want to see how Southampton did in the last friendly. But Alston's proved, even coming off the bench, he's scoring. He has that about him. Even if he gets an early sub, I think he could do really well, especially against Burnley in the first fixture when they're 2 days removed from Europa. I'd put Arnautovic 3 just because of form and he's a proven commodity. Tosin 4. I have no problem doubling up with Richarlison, but Tosin's kind of feeling the audition right now in terms of the last few friendlies. I know that might not mean much when it comes to the league, but as of now, I wouldn't rate him too highly. And then I would go Mitrovic 5th, just to be different. Mitrovic or 3-5-2. I think at that point, I'm not keen on Ings. Probably off Zaha completely right now. So those would be my 5.
Because Zaha's situation might be tricky, as he can probably stay at Palace at the deadline window and then be sold after if he's going to move abroad. It's quite tricky that. I hope we have some clarity on his situation by the deadline.
Yeah, hopefully. And again, with the early deadline, you might see a lot more movement than you normally would have in previous years. There might be a lot of stuff going on Thursday. All right. So we'll go back to the agenda real quick because there was a follow-up to the Zaha question, which was how does it affect PVA in terms of potential attacking output? Obviously, fixed would stay the same, but how would it affect him if Zaha moves on?
I mean, there's definitely some link up there happening, right? I think even when Zaha scored this last game with Figo, PVA got the assist for that goal. So there is a lot of link up there that relies a lot on Zaha. I know when Hazard, for example, doesn't play, Alonso's play suffers as well. So I don't think it can be a good thing.
Maybe he takes Hazard's spot on the wing.
But they don't really have another good left back.
They don't have one good left back.
Elari got a mute.
I mean, I think if you don't have one of your main talisman finishing these crosses from PVA, your best bet, including budget-wise, is to downgrade to Tompkins, actually. So you get the fixture benefit for $1 million less. But I understand PVA can still attack without Zaha there. It just seems a bigger risk now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't enhance his appeal, that's for sure. Diminishes it slightly.
I tell you what, if we see what we want to see from Mendy on Sunday, those with PVA, really think about if you want to get Mendy to downgrade PVA to Tompkins to get that extra $1 million. But I really, with Pet's comments, Mendy might be gold, providing he's a bit.
The thing for me with PVA is I think PVA is PVA. He's going to keep doing what he's doing anyway. I suppose the factor for me is if Tompkins is the one to have, there's a switch there to downgrade at any point. You've got $1 million, you've got a grace there. Whereas if you want to go the other way, you're sort of really struggling. But I do kind of get the point that maybe PVA without Zaha is going to be slightly diminished, but at this point in time, there's not necessarily a way to tell. Particularly because we don't know if it's, for example, it could be, say, Mayer who comes in on that left wing.
Yeah, no, fair point. There's a lot of unknown at that point. It just depends how much risk you want to go into game week 1 with. Anybody else have thoughts on PVA?
The question about Zaha, yeah?
Yeah, how does it affect him, PVA, if Zaha leaves?
Well, if anything, it definitely does affect him in a negative way, I think. It may be a bit vague, but there is definitely some chemistry between the two. You can even see it on Twitter. PVA tweeting me and Zaha doing bits and stuff like that. There's clearly something on between them. So if anything, that's a bad thing. And we knew the statistics from the last season when Zaha played and when he didn't. The difference was enormous. So we'll still see how Ings and Mayer will fit into that team. So I wouldn't go for PVA if Zaha left. As I mentioned in the chat yesterday, I would definitely say they're getting top 8 if Zaha stays in the team for the whole season. But if he leaves, there's huge doubt about Palace for me. It's a wait and see. If Zaha leaves, I would probably stay clear of Palace. Definitely.
I agree.
Just going to put something up here, lads, for anyone who was looking at Burnley even without Europa. Reports that they are lining up a £4 million move for Joe Hart. Jump off that defence.
Hilarious. I read they were in for Ben Gibson, I think. Is he still at Borough?
Yeah,
They had an 11 million bid rejected.
Yeah, I think that, well, I don't know. I think he would do well for them, but obviously we don't want to sell. We'll see. But yes, they are interested. I think it was 12 million. So, but I guess we're just holding out for an extra few days. See if they bid anymore.
Is a bit of an. This is a very low price for an English centre back.
He isn't exactly full international either, though, is he? I mean, he's recently signed a new contract as well. So, I mean, he's local. He's the H&M's nephew, you know, so he's got ties to the club. So I don't think he particularly wants to leave. So it's just down to the club, really. And if we don't need to sell, then we won't sell. Especially not for 12 million when we've just got 7 for Bamford. So yeah, I think it would have to be a very tempting bid to sell it. We'll see.
Okay. We want to move on. We can go.
I see Pirlo has joined us. Can you hear us? Can you say something?
Hello, lads. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just about.
Hi there.
How's it going? Cheers.
How's the beach?
Beautiful, mate.
Nice.
What have you been talking about?
We've gone through the agenda basically, mostly Zaha and how it affects Palace and if he leaves and stuff. We can move on now. Is Shaw a risk worth taking and why? So let's start with the United fan. JK? Oh, JK got up and left. Okay, there's your answer. JK, is Shaw a risk worth taking and why? You want to start us off?
I think he's worth the thing.
You're cutting out, JK.
It depends. Sorry,
Yeah,
what did you say?
Your signal's really weak. So see if you can maybe.
I'll find out. Come back in.
All right. Yeah,
I'll jump back in.
Okay. Zofar, you want to go ahead? Or we wait for him to join?
The question was about Luke Shaw, right?
Correct. Is he a risk worth taking, knowing he could be set at any time?
I personally do think he's not a risk worth taking because I had a look in terms of like fixture tickers on Fantasy Fix, Scout, as well as who got the assist. United are not very high in terms of clean sheet like probabilities for the first 4 fixtures. If you go through them, like Leicester looks pretty good. It's Brighton away after that. Brighton are pretty decent at home. Then you have Spurs. They kept a clean sheet last year, but it's a difficult fixture. Then there's Burnley away, which is also on paper not the easiest of fixtures. So keeping all, if you had a really easy fixture run in mind, then maybe I would say Shaw was worth the gamble. But the reports I read in the last match, in the preseason game, he didn't play very well. And all it takes is just Mourinho, him to do something wrong. Mourinho would probably hook him at halftime and he would never see sunlight again. So I just don't see it to be a risk worth taking. There's not enough upside there.
Plus
Whereas
one.
I completely disagree, if I can have a moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
All right, so first of all, Valencia, Dalot are injured. Both of them are probably out for the first few game weeks, which means even when Young is back, he'll probably fit into the right wing back spots. So Shaw is probably not in danger of losing his spot in the first 3 or 4 game weeks. Regarding the fixtures, I don't see how we can possibly say Leicester, Burnley, and Watford, or whoever we play in the 4th fixture, are not good games. And we all know they will keep it tight against Tottenham. For sure, you can you really can be assured we will keep it tight against Tottenham.
You think
So
Matic
I
out?
think. Yeah, go again.
So I was saying, do you think Matic being out is a factor? Because that is something I've been worried about.
No, Matic probably is not a factor. I think Fred can easily fit into that role, and Herrera probably playing a bit deeper. So I would be concerned with Matic being out. He hasn't been that solid anyway for the last half a year, so he probably isn't that big of a loss if we can have Fred in there and Herrera playing alongside. So
Or Pereira.
Yeah, or Pereira as well, as you mentioned. There's also some talk of us going 3-5-2, which would mean Shaw playing as a left wing back, which would probably even increase his potential for assists, goals maybe. He's been quite attacking in the preseason. So for 5 million, you probably can get anyone better for this price. You have him nailed for the first 3 or 4 game weeks. So I don't see how it can go wrong, really. I really don't, unless he gets injured or maybe Dalot of Valencia come back earlier than expected. But if they don't, I think he's pretty good for the first few. And the fixtures are there. You can't tell me the first 4 fixtures are bad for him. You just can't. You can't convince me, man.
Okay, I won't try.
Yeah, I have to agree with Johnny Orphan. When I first looked at the fixtures, I thought they looked a bit difficult, like you think so. But I think when you look at the context of how depleted Leicester are coming back, their defence looks rubbish. They're going to have Ben Luan and Morgan as their centre back pairing. They're not going to have Vardy. I don't know if they're missing any other key players, but I mean Vardy's a big loss. I think that boosts United clean sheet potential massively. With Mahrez gone as well, not to mention. I think once you get past the Leicester game, I think there could be a clean sheet there either against Brighton or Burnley. I think Burnley will have a Europa League fixture around game week 4, or am I thinking of something?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely boosts United's clean sheet potential there.
Also, another. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, and like you mentioned, Spurs could go either way, but United at home, we expect them to be tight in a lot of their home games. I mean, they boast one of the best home defensive records probably in the league. And not to mention, Shaw, he's only 5 million. There's I think De Gea is the most owned goalkeeper, 30% really of people going with De Gea. I think it's a good insurance policy kind of for 5 million just going with Shaw. And like you said, I think he's quite safe at the minute with Young coming back late.
Yes, also we were probably thinking about the Brighton fixture, thinking about that last year when we lost 2-0, or was it 1-0? One of the worst performances
1-0,
anyway.
yeah.
We didn't get a shot on target in the first half, if I remember correctly. Rashford missing sitters and stuff like that. But we always ignore the fact that it was the fixture that ensured Brighton stayed in the league, so they were super motivated for the fixture. Against Burnley, we got a clean sheet last year, and Burnley haven't been that great at home. Remember about that. They actually had much better goal-scoring form away from home last season, which was so unusual. And then there's Watford. We know they struggle for goals. So that's 5 fixture I'll be probably very comfortable owning, even a double United defense, really.
JK, you have thought?
Yeah. I've not got much to add really to what J.O. said. I mean, like I say, I have short the minute, and I consider as long as you have cover or he's part of a rotation, etc., and you're not relying on him every week, I think there's value there. Say he's 5 million, you've got a cheap route into an elite defence, you've got great fixtures. We've been playing 3-5-2 a lot in pre-season. I can't see that Jose is playing 3-5-2 for no good reason. He's clearly planning to use it on some sort of regular basis. So for me, and it also, what it would help us to do perhaps is solve our issues on the right wing, at least temporarily. If we've abandoned the right winger for the season, going 3-5-2, relying on, say, the wing backs for the width, eases a lot of pressure there, and it makes Shaw a slightly better option because he's actually a left footer, which Young obviously isn't. So I think it's worth the risk early on, personally, yes.
I'm starting to come around to it mainly because, as you said, if he does happen to sit out a game, first sub for me is Tompkins, which is not bad at all. So if I could somehow squeeze it in and keep Robertson in my team versus downgrading into Van Dijk, I think I might go down that road.
You can't downgrade to Van Dijk. They're both 6 million.
Oh, is he? All right, then.
Yeah.
Then it means cutting out a 5-0. I'll have to figure it out. But I think in general, if you have a good first sub in the auto and he gets a benching, I think it might be worth it.
Yeah.
Because
I think the risk of a cameo is probably pretty low, for sure. Like Mourinho would be more inclined if we were shutting up shop. He'd be probably more inclined to bring on a centre half than a left back.
Right. So it's no cameo involved. Is more reason to maybe go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, for 5 million, like, who's better? Who's a better option? Like, I mean, you're either going to be looking at taking a punt maybe on Alexander Arnold or Lovren, who are, have a bit of doubt around them for the start of the season, or you're probably looking at and Everton haven't really been that convincing from what we've seen in pre-season. They've looked a bit dodgy at the back despite having the fixtures. So I think Shaw is probably the best option for 5 million. I mean,
yeah, if you look at the 5 millions, Lacazette, Noel, Newcastle look hard.
Just Burnley defenders really at 5 million.
Yeah, there's really no one. I mean,
Well, there's Europa League and Joe Hart.
Yeah.
Elara has put up his post up on the group if anyone wants to read it.
Yeah, later someone. Yeah, Swan, do you want to read what later has written on the CØntcast group?
Yeah, so he goes, from a tactical point of view, Shaw is handling the left wing, just like Valencia last year. Alexis is cutting in a lot, so Shaw will probably attack a lot. He's been shit and average and good in 3 different games. So the quality is there for you to judge. It all depends on whether you rate Shaw as a player. And he says, was that a signal? So I had a typo. So I'd rather you rules of the road.
Yeah, I'd rather you focused on the road.
Yeah.
It looks like he's not driving anymore.
I was going to ask Pirlo if he has any thoughts, but he's dropped off again. So,
okay. But the encouraging that all 3 of the United cons back Shaw. That has me convinced.
And we were I was talking with Jackson last night in the Dead Zone. Everybody's like, United is highly owned. It's really only De Gea is the only one highly owned. Everybody else, I think, below 7% or lower.
Yeah, but if United, we do keep a clean sheet, that De Gea ownership is going to be a killer.
Yeah, correct. You can hope for attacking returns with Shaw to kind of take you ahead of it, but I mean, it's good. It's good cover, and again, short term, it's probably worth the risk.
I mean, look at Phil Jones last season.
Yeah, true. All right, so to the Zofar part of the cast, because we're now into a question about Chelsea. So the question is, given Sarri's set-piece routines and centre-back scoring goals at Napoli, should we be looking at Chelsea centre-backs? Is it too early? And in general, your thoughts on Sarri ball and where that might be going, and people we should keep an eye on.
I'll start off by saying initially I had advised everyone that probably should steer clear of Chelsea defense, and sort of feels the case, but our fixtures are quite nice. I had a look through earlier today. There's Huddersfield, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, Bournemouth at home, Cardiff at home. So I would like to think there's at least 2 or 3 clean sheets on offer there. And Luis, the price point is quite attractive at 5.5, and in my opinion, in terms of pecking order, he's the number 1 at centre-back right now. I think there's even a comment from Sarri in today's press conference about how Luis is an important player, etc., etc. And the ownership for Chelsea defenders is actually still quite high. I was just having a look. Aspi and Alonso are both, I think, in the top 5. So the similar argument of the Chelsea clean sheet thing could possibly be applied here as well. Right now, I think it would still take a few games for his style to bed in. And once Kante is back, which could be as soon as game week 2, I think we'd be a lot more solid.
So yeah, Alonso and Aspi are 3rd and 4th on the ownership list.
There you go. So it's not a bad idea to get some Chelsea defensive coverage. And 5.5, I think Luis is a great entry into the price point because he played a couple of balls over the defense also against Arsenal the other day. Could have had a couple of assists. So he has a lot to offer in terms of attacking potential as well. In terms of the other attacker, I see in a lot of teams now, Pedro. I'm not so keen on, even though he signed a new contract and everything today. because I just don't see him in terms of technical ability. He's far below Willian. A lot of times the build up and link up play in the friendly games it just stopped because of Pedro, because Pedro couldn't execute a final ball. So I don't see him as part of the first team, like when first 11 everyone's fit, getting regular game time or playing 90 minutes consistently. Morata, on the other hand, though, he had a lot of good chances, and all he needed to do was put one of them away, and I'm confident the others would have gone in as well. So I would say if Morata has a good performance in the Shield this Sunday, he's one we could still consider. But that's about it. I wouldn't buy Pedro Fabregas right now. Hudson-Odoi has been mentioned a lot, but he's again somebody who's going to play primarily in the Europa League. Maybe a cameo appearance here and there. Not more than that.
So Zafar, you haven't even mentioned Barkley, and to be honest, I had him for quite a while in my draft, and I watched the game against this Australian team. I think it was Perth Glory, whoever he played. Barkley looked really good for me in the game, and I think he fits into that left central midfielder role that Hamšík was playing in Napoli. So how do you see it, considering there will be Kante, Jorginho, and the left midfield spot in the center? Would it be Fabregas or Barkley? Because I would say it's Barkley. He suits it. He's like, his work rate is better. He's more attacking. He's a goal scorer. So I think he just fits better than the Spaniard.
I'm a big Fabregas fan personally, and I think the last few games, maybe because without Kante, whenever Fabregas went off, even with Jorginho on the pitch, we completely lost all balance and control in the midfield. So I don't see how that would really work personally, and I think Fabregas has a lot more to offer than Barkley. I mean, even in the last game, he was getting in the box a lot. He had a few good attempts. So I think the spot is undecided still. That's why I wouldn't recommend probably to go with either. To start with, wait 2-3 games, and whoever nails down that spot would be really good. But not to start game week 1. It would be risky. Unless of course Fabregas is injured.
Is Rudiger worth 6 million so far, do you think?
Over Luis, personally, I don't think he's worth the extra money. I think I'd just save the $500,000 and go Luis. So Luis offers you similar goal threat, and he has open play assist threat and free kicks.
Yeah. Will that be your first choice partnership, do you think?
I think so. I mentioned in the group earlier, other centre backs are Cahill, Zuma, and Christensen. Cahill couldn't get a game even at the end of last season. He was just playing so he could get his spot in the England team. Christensen made a lot of mistakes when he came on, and I see him being a sort of a backup to Luis if Luis is injured or something.
So play Europa, kind of deal for Christensen.
Yeah. And either way, he's going to get subbed off in the 57th minute. So.
Is there a chance Courtois leaves before Thursday? And if so, does that make Caballero an option, or are they going to sign somebody?
I think what might happen is you have to keep in mind Courtois could easily play game week 1, game week 2, and leave at the end of the season, at the end of the month. Because we can't buy players, but we can still sell players.
Yeah, but surely you're not going to sell Courtois and Milan Caballero till January.
No.
Well,
my point is
Bulka, the Polish goalkeeper. He's been really good in the preseason, hasn't he?
Bulka, right? Yeah, I think Bulka, I'd like him to start over Caballero. He's been quite impressive.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I had Caballero. I would probably start Joe Hart instead of Caballero, to be honest. But
Robert Green. We have Robert Green, don't forget.
All right, yeah.
So I see us signing a goalkeeper, let's say, in like Wednesday or Thursday. He probably won't even play game week 1 or game week 2. We would integrate him over the international break and sell Courtois by the end of August.
Do you think Batshuayi could play a part in Sarri's football? So
absolutely. There's been a lot of noises. He's told Batshuayi is very much part of the first team. He doesn't want to loan him out or sell him. I think
not even in FPL.
Yeah, he's not even in the game. That's why I was wondering.
It's very strange that they've done that this year. But yeah, getting back to I think if Morata has another couple of bad games, you could see all that Batshuayi needs to do is come on and take his chance.
I was just thinking if he was listed at like a similar price as Uriel, maybe even around 8.5, it could open up a kind of a different team structure there, because we haven't really got that many options bar Morata in that kind of price bracket.
like a 7.5, 8 would really give us an option in that bracket. Definitely.
I just step out for a minute. Did we talk about everybody's favorite 4.5 midfielder?
No.
No? Good week.
I don't have one. That's why I don't own one.
I got to see what happens at the Shield, but I mean, he's likely not to play. I mean, I would only think about him as an enabler for, a much stronger defense where you don't want to get any points off your bench. But I was curious, Zoff, if you thought if he starts and plays well in the Shield, is he actually a real option, or is it just he's too young and it's too much of a risk?
He's too young and it's too much of a risk. He's going to play regular game time in the Europa League, but he's not going to play him in the league. And Sarri has already said as much. He sees him as one for the future, etc., etc.
Cool. All right, we can move on.
I did ask a question on Scout earlier today morning that who was the 4.5 everyone was going with, and it was either Gunnarsson, Stephens, or some guy named Ward. I don't even know.
Ward is dead now.
Yeah, Ward was Bo's little bandwagon.
Yeah, I wanted it to work so much.
So next question is an Arsenal question. Emery's recent preseason lineup saw Lacazette benched for both PSG and Chelsea, even though he did come in and score a goal off the bench in that one. Do we think it's only one of Aubameyang and Lacazette who start, or rather than both? Or should we just completely ignore any Arsenal until game week 3?
Well, that might be something I might like to get involved with, Lacazette and stuff. I think they should start both together, but given their difficult fixtures, Chelsea and Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City, and the first two, I think it's just wait and see with every Arsenal asset, really.
Yeah.
Because we can easily have Mkhitaryan at 7 come as a good option, or Ramsey even. So there's not really much point in investing in Arsenal when someone better and cheaper might become an option by game week 3. So it's just wait and see, because we probably won't see many points for them in the first two anyway. So yeah. I think that's the perfect scenario of just, just analyzing the first two games and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. My personal opinion, I think Aubameyang is nailed, but a lot of games he might play with Lacazette. And let's say against Man City, he might want somebody who's going to do more defensive work on the wing than Aubameyang. He might want to put a Mkhitaryan who's going to track back. So I think he's going to go from game to game. I think against City, he'll probably play just Auba through the middle. But then let's say same thing when he's at home to, let's say, a Burnley or a Newcastle, then he'll probably go with both.
Another thing to factor in with Arsenal is the Europa League. Is he going to maybe try and rely on one of them as being the Europa League forward? Because if he played both in the league, he's essentially saying, right, I'm going into the Europa League with Danny Welbeck as my main centre forward here.
There's Lucas Perez as well. Don't forget about him.
Yeah, Lucas is more of an inside forward, and that's not much of an upgrade.
I totally forgot about him.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the avoid till game week 3. I mean, as long as you have the structure and can move to Aubameyang and Lacazette, which I think many of us starting with Aguero can do that. You'd be getting one of the midfielders. It's probably pretty easy downgrading, if you're going Mane or I'm going Sanchez right now, so it's easy to downgrade to one of those guys. And of course, defense is probably simple to get into too. It'd be interesting to see how Chambers gets on if he becomes more nailed in that, real or not.
I'm not optimistic on Chambers right now.
Yeah, not really.
It's looking like he's going with Socrates and Mustafi in the most recent game.
So then you hope that Cola's injury is not too serious. Maybe he's an option come game week 3, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Mkhitaryan's interesting because I think he's like the 5th most owned midfielder in the game. I think he's only like a couple of % behind Eriksen. If he's not first choice, you could see a lot of sales. You could see a lot of people jumping onto similarly priced players, in the 6.5, 7.0 range.
Yeah, you're right. 5th most owned midfielder in the game, Mkhitaryan.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an interesting one to keep an eye on, because if he does blank, there's, an opportunity there to kind of not get above the average, but increase your chances of getting above the average there. And as well as that, like I said, people might see a mass exodus, jump on similarly priced players, and you could see a bit of a few price rises.
Has he shown anything in the friendlies?
I
Mkhitaryan.
don't think so. I haven't really watched Arsenal much in pre-season.
Mkhitaryan even got benched for one of the games, I think, for Lacazette. Because he played Iwobi on the other side and he took out Mkhitaryan and played Lacazette there. So I don't even think Mkhitaryan necessarily nailed that setup.
And again, Mkhitaryan, when at United, was much better in the Europa League than he was in the Premier League. So Emery could have him as very much a Europa League sort of kind of player.
Yeah. He got 2 goals in pre-season. I'm just looking it up now. One against Crawley Town, so I wouldn't count that. And another one somewhere else.
I'm also not sure if Ramsey is nailed because Emery mentioned that he's playing a 4-2-3-1 in some games, and when he's playing that formation, he mentioned Ozil would be the number 10. So then, where does Ramsey go then? Because that means one of.
Well, yeah, if you assume Taylor is going to play, then only leaves one spot for Ramsey or Xhaka.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the last game he played Ramsey as a number 10 and Ozil out wide against Chelsea.
Yeah, but there was some quotes, right, where he mentioned how he loves playing Ozil as a number.
The middle in that role behind the striker,
All right, we'll move on. Question 6 is City assets in general. So how many are you starting with? You're going to go from 3 from the jump or leave one spot open? I think Zofar convinced me to have a placeholder for KDB once he's back in full fitness. But how many are we starting with of the midfielders outside of KDB, since we probably the most nailed of them? Which one would you start with at the beginning of the year? So, Paul, you want to go first? I don't think you've gone first before. You want your dog to go first, Paul? It's fine.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry, I didn't hear that bit. Sorry.
City assets, how many would you start with this season and which ones? And then of the midfielders, bar KDB, who's probably the most nailed. The rest might all be risk of rotation. Which ones would you start the season with?
Well, up until today, I was fairly confident going with Sane. But after Pep's comments about wanting to play 3 at the back a bit more, I think I'm gone back onto the idea of going with Kun. If I can't remember who we were talking about. I think it was Zof actually. About the Ederson Mendy double up. I kind of like that because while you might say it's a double up for City defence, if they are playing 3 at the back, Mendy's going to be practically playing as a left winger at times. So it's nearly like an out position pick if you want to look at it that way. But I think I'd like to see the Charity Shield now this Sunday to get a better idea of. I mean, my opinion now could change totally after Sunday. But at the minute, I think I like Ederson, Mendy, and Aguero. So basically, no City midfielders.
No midfielders.
That's the same thing I've got right now, and I think that's where really there's a more scope of rotation now that they've brought Mahrez, and now that they can play different systems. The midfield is where they can really rotate more so than any other position. So it's really difficult to call. Like, yes, KDB is probably the one to get, but my personal pick, who I feel would be the most nailed, especially while KDB is out, is David Silva. But I think with KDB out, he has to play that role, the central role, to create the build-up, dictate the play.
Yeah, like the thing I was thinking, like a lot of City assets look great short term. Like at the start of the season, Bernardo Silva might start. Was he 7.5 million? Could be a great punt. Mahrez or Sane, even with the 3 available without Sterling, there's still a bit of a rotation risk. If you do get it right and they go massively against Arsenal, and they've got Huddersfield game week 2, but I think as the game weeks go on, we'll see Sterling coming back, we'll see Jesus coming back into the mix. De Bruyne will come back. He's already said David Silva is probably going to play less game time this season. There's just so many different ways he can, go, even more so last year. I mean, trying to guess Pep's team last year and figure out who was nailed was hard enough, let alone adding Mahrez into the mix and 3-5-2. So they're also expensive. So it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing. If you do get it right and they go big, if they don't, you're just going to be fuming, rage transferring players out. That's just my take on it.
I would argue that even KDB, while he was great last year, like he didn't really explode too often, did he? I remember a lot of games where City won 5-0, 6-0. KDB just saw one assist, 5 to 6 points. So even KDB in terms of 10 million, I'd argue Hazard maybe under Sarri is worth more 10.5 than KDB is at 10.
Even Sanchez for the start of the season as well. Like,
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I didn't actually fancy KDB as a fantasy option last year. I thought he was playing way too deep. I don't like him as a FPL option. I'm actually very inclined to see how Mahrez does because I think he fits into two positions. He can play in the KDB Silva position as well as in the Sterling right wing position. So Pep's got a lot of ways in which he can use Mahrez, and I rate him here. He matched the City midfielders point for point, when he was playing for Leicester. So I think he's capable of great things when he plays for City.
Did we cut out?
No. JL, you back?
I am, yeah.
You want to give your thoughts on City, specifically the midfield?
More specifically, please. I like Bernardo Silva for sure. He's shown great form in preseason. He's cheap. So given everyone's probably gonna get rotated in the first 3 or 4, I'll probably get Silva, just hoping he will start maybe 70-80% of games. And that's it, really. I'll probably wait for De Bruyne maybe to come back and see how he fits in. If they move to 3 at the back.
What if Jesus plays and scores a couple of goals in the Community Shield? What do you guys do then?
Let's leave that question till Thursday.
Yeah.
Mendy, I think we'll hold the Mendy question till Thursday too, because we've not seen him play yet. So.
But what I'd like to add about Mendy is in the quotes that were pasted in the wrong chat, there was one line that was missed where Pep said that he plans to use Mendy in a lot of ways. That makes me think he's almost as nailed to a City player as can be because he's saying that he plans to use him in both formations, whether he goes 4 at the back or 3 at the back.
That's what I was thinking.
That makes the double up with Edison even more popular.
He was starting for Huddersfield today over losses.
Yeah, Hamer starting in goal.
Hey!
Amar's the nail, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Who? Hamer?
Hamer.
Yeah.
He's 4 million?
He's 4 million.
Started.
Was he at was it Leicester last season?
Huddersfield.
Yeah, he's at Leicester.
yeah.
Yeah, he's moved to Huddersfield now.
Leicester to Huddersfield.
That's a big
So is everybody here getting 3 City to start with? Because
No.
at no point I have 3 City. I've been happy with Aguero and 1 defender. I've been looking at a couple. I don't think it's worth the risk getting Bernardo Silva or David Silva even. Maybe Mahrez, because you're right, they probably won't play 3 out of 3, and there are good options that will play 3 out of 3 and do well. I think Huddersfield at home is a brilliant fixture. As long as you've got the defence covered and Aguero to captain, maybe, then that's all you need, really. I'm happy to get 3 City in when I wildcard, but I'm not in a rush now to take a risk on somebody who may not play. But as Swan's been saying all week, the Shield is going to tell us, hopefully, everything that we need to know.
Yeah, I've stopped tinkering since about 4 days because there's just so much information that we don't have, and I think we're not going to have until maybe 3 or 4 days prior to the season. I'm just waiting for the last set of press conferences. I think all of us are at that stage where we have a certain short list of players that we want to play with, but we haven't prioritized as yet.
Have we talked about Kennedy from Newcastle?
No, we didn't bring him up. If you go ahead, if you'd like to. I think most of us.
Oh, I was just looking at him yesterday at the midfielders, under 5.5 million. He does look like a good option. I just saw he's playing Chelsea in game week 3, and I was just wondering whether he will be available for a game or is he
he's on loan.
not eligible.
He's on loan, so he's not eligible, right? So.
All right, so he's probably not worth it then. But those fixtures don't seem that bad, to be honest. Because every game they're playing against the top 6 or whatever, they're playing at home where they usually score goals even against the top 6. So it's not that bad in terms of fixtures. It just depends whether you can afford to have him benched in game week 3. Otherwise, he's a pretty decent option. I think he's better than Kearney or whatever you call him from Fulham, for example.
Is nobody interested in is it Costa for Wolves? I think he's 5 million.
I had him.
Traore is the problem.
Yeah, that's actually the next question on the cast is who are your best 7.5 million and under budget midfielders? So it's a perfect segue if we want to go into talking about those, and I'll keep a list again. So, Bo's and you want to go, Bo?
Let's do a quick list of that too.
Yeah, Bo, do you want to start?
Yeah. What was the cap? 7 or 7.5?
7.5, because there's a lot of good options at that number. So.
Well, since the game opened, I did have Sigurdsson in there just because I was expecting him to come back from injury. He had a decent enough World Cup, set pieces, and he's kind of a reliable FPL pick, with the exception of last season. So Sigurdsson would be one I'd consider, but since Richarlison came into Everton's side for 6.5, I think looking at the way they played when he lined up for Everton in pre-season, everything seemed to be central around him. So I think Richarlison will prove to be a better option than Sigurdsson. Other picks, let's see. I think Pedro could be worth a punt at the start of the season. I'm not expecting much. I know Zofar doesn't really rate him that much in terms of ability, but I mean Sterling doesn't really have that ability either. Yeah, he seems to get the point, so it could be one of those situations. Trying to think, Maddison for the.
If he scores in the Shield, then I think he could probably even start the first few games.
Yeah, maybe so. He's just one to consider for me anyway. I think Maddison for Leicester has been kind of tipping away nicely. He could be one that could go under the radar, but like I said earlier, given Leicester's kind of squad status coming into game week 1, he might be a wait and see option. I think a few of the guys in the group are looking at Mata as a punt for 6.5. He could be a decent show early on, but it's hard to know because we know he gets subbed off early quite a lot. It's kind of all I can think of offhand. Of course, Jota for Wolves. He seems to be another popular pick. Outside of that, maybe not that many decent in the 6.5, 7 million range.
So how would you make your 5, Bo?
My top 5?
Yeah.
Richarlison, Sigurdsson, Pedro, Jota, and then maybe a punt on. I'd say someone kind of off-field like Milivojevic. Even though I didn't like him last season, he's just one of those players. He has set pieces. Palace have okay fixtures, and he seems to kind of consistently get points.
He won't get penalties if Zaha's leaving though.
They got plenty of penalties before Zaha was playing, to be fair.
That's a good point. Though, yeah. I think there was just on that note. I think someone mentioned that. I think it was on Twitter before that Townsend of the kind of 6.5 millions proves the best value for like points per minute or something like that.
Oh, good lord!
Yeah, I know. It's
shots per minute.
Yeah, maybe shots per minute. Yeah, shots into Rose Ed per minute. So yeah, I wouldn't probably read into that too much. So
he got a fair bit of assists last season towards the end, if I remember correctly.
Just maybe one to consider with Zaha gone. He might be given a different role. I don't know.
No.
Absolutely.
No, yeah.
Drop it, Bo.
Maybe.
I've actually got a fair bit to say with regards to the 6.5 midfielder bracket. So I saw the Everton game. I thought they were incredibly poor, but why I really like Richarlison as a pick is because he was hogging that touchline on the left-hand side. And every time he got the ball, he managed to beat 2-3 players and take a good shot. And what I noticed is when the ball's on the right-hand side, where Coleman is supposed to deliver, Richarlison's one of the very few wingers who actually comes and his responsibility is to head the ball, and he's a good header of the ball as well. So apart from shooting from his foot, you can expect a few goals with his head, and that makes him an even more valuable asset. And why I was very hot on Mata, and I've gone a little off him now that Lukaku's back, is because I was sure that Mata was playing striker. He was actually playing the furthest up the pitch in the two preseason friendlies that we played. Sanchez was actually supporting Mata. Mata was central and the furthest up the pitch. So I want to know what Mourinho says about Lukaku, and if he says that Lukaku is not fit or something like that, I'm keen on Mata as a punt.
Okay. So do you want to give me a top 5, LR? Because I'm sorry, I was.
I'd say my number one pick is Richarlison at the moment. Number 2, I'd say Pedro, because Sarri, either 1-year contract extension and the fact that Sarri has had some good things to say about Pedro makes me think that he's fairly nailed, and I like him at that price. Number 3 depends on whether Lukaku is fit or not. I'd say Mata. After that, who else left? There's Madison at 4. I really like the look of him, but I don't know if he's got the fixtures. And then there's Jota.
Okay, Trig, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think most people have been covered. The ones we've not talked about yet are potentially, if we've not looked at Fulham's midfield, we've not looked at Sessegnon, who I think is overpriced personally, but you never know. He might hit the ground running. And Shirley, who is
a lot of the preseason games, he's back at left back, not on the wing anymore.
Yeah, I'd have heard that too. So Sessegnon's a waiting to see. Shirley too might, he's had 2 difficult seasons with injury, so I think it's wait and see with him.
There's one elephant in the room though that we haven't spoken about. Lucas Moura.
It's like you read my mind. He was next on my list actually.
Yeah.
We've not spoken about because
I've got a punt up my sleeve. Yeah.
It is very, very short term. Well, is it short term? I mean, how long's Son out for or away for? So he might be good for 3 or 4 games at least. And then if he plays well, he's hard to drop. So yeah, he's an option. Another one as well. Someone highly recommended by Niemi. I'll have to watch my pronunciation. Is it Moi Elinuisi?
Moi, yeah, Elinuisi.
Boy, yeah.
Yeah. So he's obviously it's very difficult coming from a much weaker league, but his end product's been quite impressive in the past. But obviously it's we've seen things go either way with players coming from the weaker leagues, Holland and Belgium. So it's it's nice if you can pick maybe 2 of them like Richarlison and Jota, for example. Then it's nice and easy to jump on Madison or one of those that we've talked about. There's a lot of potential in that 6.5 million bracket, I think. So I'll probably start with Richarlison, and I really, really want to start with Madison. I think just a hunch, really. But, we'll see though. But I'll start with Richarlison, maybe one more in the 6.5-7 million, and then we will see.
Did you watch Wolves play much of the championship? I've never actually seen Wolves play.
Well, I don't think anybody's seen this Wolves play because obviously they're such a different team now. I mean, it's they ran away with it last season. They had a lot of class. I think they tightened up towards the end as well defensively. Once they knew that they were in pole position. I mean, I forget who it was made the point earlier that actually, if we're looking at the second half of last season, I mean, if the league ran from January, then Fulham would have, coasted the league. They were absolutely flying from January onwards. So perhaps Fulham are, even better than Wolves potentially.
And that coincided with Mitrovic, didn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but maybe Mitrovic found his level. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rate him as a player, actually. I think Newcastle underutilized him. I think he's a good player.
Well, I mean, it's not like he's an unknown in the Premier League. He did play in the Premier League and did quite well when he wasn't suspended. I mean, I think he's a Premier League striker, personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you notice his quotes? So when he joined Fulham, he's like, I felt at home here. I didn't want to consider any other club. I told I told my agent I only want to go to Fulham. So he seems like settled, and when a player is in that state of mind, could make for a good FPL pick.
Yeah, I mean, especially going from his relationship with Rafa, going to the relationship with the manager at Fulham, I think he's got a real trust there between them. I think, he's really knuckled down and wants to do well for.
Serbians, they stick together, you see.
What was that, JK?
Serbians, they stick together.
Clearly, yeah.
You want to give me your 5 trick?
Okay. Richarlison, Maddison. I'll go with Richarlison, Maddison, Lucas Moura, Jota, and I'll stick Moa in there.
Gotcha. All right. Jo, you still with us?
I am, yes.
Okay, you want to go?
So Gross hasn't been mentioned. I think he's a bit overpriced. I would probably get him if
7
it was
mil,
6
I
or
thought
6.
he was. Yeah,
Yeah,
7 mil.
Yeah, he's
The fixtures are not too favorable, so I wouldn't start with him. But he has to be up there in the top 5, I think. Richarlison, if he came to Everton before the launch of the game, he'll probably be around 7.5, maybe 8 million. So he's 100% into my team. Jota, probably, from Wolves. We'll see how he settles in, but he's a good option. Mora, as mentioned, for now and until Son is back from the Asian Games. Who else do we have? Marshall, maybe. We would have said it 2 weeks ago, wouldn't we? Yeah. But yeah, since all that stuff with the baby and other things, we just
Martial's
really
actually though, isn't he? Or no, he's 7'5". Oh no,
yeah, he's 7'5". Bernardo Silva, as I mentioned before, he's good for now, I think. So yeah, that will be Richarlison, Jota, Gross, Martial, and Lucas Moura for me.
Does anybody know much about the new Southampton Tadic replacement, El Nasi or something? His name is.
His number is very good, but I haven't really watched him play. I think Jo is probably the one. Jo, do you know much about it?
Jo?
Yeah, what was it?
Do you know much about El Nasi, the new Southampton attacking midfielder? He's at 6.5, I think.
I don't think it was me. It was, I think, Jacques who knows something about it. I just know him from Football Manager, really. So, yeah, I have no clue. I never seen him in play, so no.
His numbers are very...
Naomi knows him.
Just so that you guys can know, I've been hovering around Nirvana as well, and those guys really, really rate him really highly.
I mean, it's good for Austin, right? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But for strange reason, I don't see him getting that many minutes. Even the last game, I think he came on as a sub. He didn't start. I found that pretty strange. Him and Armstrong, both.
So far,
I don't think he's fit yet. He probably misses game week 1, from what I've heard anyway.
Yes, I think that's my feeling too.
Dolph, do you want to talk budget midfielders?
Yep, I have it written down here. It's Richarlison, number 1, for all the reasons stated here. And Jota at 2, even though I've not seen him play, it seems like he's possibly out of position and he's nailed for 90 minutes. And that's Wolves look like a good team. Number 3, I have Pedro. Will be higher if he scores in the Shield this weekend. Then I have the UC guy. And then Mkhitaryan.
Okay.
Okay, remind me what sort of price range are we talking again?
7.5.
7.5. Right. So number one, like most of the rest of the guys, is Richarlison. The guy's nailed into my team and he isn't leaving. Second on my list is Jota. I think with my current draft, if Austin's not viable, I'm either going to go for Mitrovic or I'm going to drop down another million and bring Jota into midfield ahead of a 5 million midfielder. So I'm with Jo. I think Gross is criminally under the radar once the fixtures ease up. We know what he's about. Going to have the set pieces, potentially on the penalties, and heavily creative. I am. And I'm going to throw in a couple of punts that nobody's considered yet. So, number one, again, it's Europa's a bit of a risk, but I'm going to throw Goodwinson in. Because I think, again, the set pieces there, decent fixtures. You know what you're getting with him. Nothing spectacular, but for 6 million, I think he's going to deliver pretty consistently. And my last one, with Richarlison gone, we've got first three fixtures, Brighton, Burnley and Palace. If he can stay fit, Pereira at 6 million. I think he could be absolute gold.
Interesting.
So that's my 5.
Yeah, right. Me. It's going to fall to me to talk about Liverpool mid-price options, isn't it?
Keita.
Depends on the beach.
Keita.
Back me up. That's fine. One's for Richarlison, same reasons everybody has said. But, all right, depends on how they line up in the last 2 games. But either Keita or Shaqiri, I think, could prove extremely valuable, depending on which one is, getting further forward and playing that kind of midfield creator role. I mean, I did look at some video of Keita, and not only within Liverpool, but then last year, he really does do all the little things that are going to earn him a ton of bonus. I mean, he wins tackles, he gets back possession, he does not turn it over that much. Earlier in the preseason, he was, had some great crosses in the box. So
you can get another player who does all that for 1.5 million less just by Fred.
Yeah, Fred. No bias at all. All right, so but we go from that. I mean, now Shaqiri's signing. He hasn't gotten up to speed, I think, fully yet in the club. So it remains to be seen if these last 2 fixtures. I know they have. They got Napoli, correct, and then they got another Italian club, I think, on Tuesday. But we'll have to see how they do. But one of those 2, I think, if they're playing a more creative role at 7.5, especially if I'm having Salah and Sanchez in my team, I'm going to go for one of them. So right now I have it Keita 2, Shaqiri 3. And then I have the 2 Wolves midfielders right now, Jota and Neves. Neves in there because he's on pens and a lot of free kicks as the 2, ones you can start with from the off. And again, going with a 5.0 and Neves gives you more of the options to improve your defense, especially if you want like Robertson and Mendy in your team. And Neves at 5, even if he's a 5th or a 4th, can definitely get you that the money to do that. I know a lot of people here aren't on Keita, but we'll see how it pans out. I mean, it's easy to switch to an Arsenal mid or somebody else.
Because of Mane. Because Mane is on penalties, I just can't ignore that.
Oh, true. I mean, we don't really know that yet. But if that's the case, then yeah, I'd be happy to lose Keita to Pedro or somebody else to get Mane.
There's just one player I think I want to talk about before we move on. I was scouting him during the World Cup, and that's Jahan Baksh. Brighton don't have really good fixtures right now, but just keep an eye on him. He shoots a lot. So could be one to watch out for.
Oh,
the Brighton team. Yeah. That guy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Paul Merison's favourite player.
Yeah,
Is he a midfielder?
So last thing on the agenda is, again, now we're into the defender. So budget defenders, 4.5 or less. Include the 2 or 3 4.0s that we think are nailed. Although I did see something in the chat just now that Palace are in for Torre. So
they said Palace might approach. It seems like speculation there because they already have.
Yeah.
They have Ward and Kelly. They don't need 4. It seems.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to jive. But I mean, you got Wan-Bissaka, you got Pietro over at Cardiff, and you have maybe Bednarik at Southampton. We still have to see.
Okay.
But 4.5 or less, where would you
By the
go?
way, Chicharito starting for West Ham.
Oh, lineups are coming out, right?
Lineup is here. You've got Fabianski, Frederick, Ogbonna, Balbuena, Cresswell, Noble, Wilshere, Antonio, Felipe Anderson, Arnie, Chicharito. So Arnie looks like he's in the 10.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean,
There's no Yarmolenko today, right?
There's no Yarmolenko, but I would expect Antonio to be the guy who drops in that lineup for Yarmolenko.
Yes,
That's going to be Felipe Anderson in the 10, surely, and Arnautovic in the role that he played at Stoke. So I would say Arnautovic left midfield.
I mean,
But we'll see how
if
it
it's
goes.
just line how it's listed, then yes, Felipe Anderson will be in the 10.
right. All right, so let's see who has to start. Jo, do you want to start 4.5 or less defenders?
Yes, let's go. So Bednarik, obviously the first option for $1 million. The only concern I have with him is the ownership. So if something fucks up and he gets drops or whatever, his ownership's gonna plummet. Because obviously every Polish player, FPL.
He went on mute. His ownership's 5-1. And it's not that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like 12% around 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure.
It's 5.1 right now.
All right, so that's not that bad. So there's Bednarik. I think there's a lot of value. Van Bissaka, obviously, for price as well. Tompkins, as mentioned before. Probably Cedric, but we won't start with him due to the injury or whatever he's suffering from. And a fifth option, yes, 5 of them.
Yes, correct, 5.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Who do we have? Give me some alternatives, because I can't remember anyone.
Yeah, any of the Bournemouth, Tompkins.
Doherty from Wolves is a pretty good shout. He had quite a few goals and assists last season. 4.5.
Is there any West Ham defender for? No, they have shit fixtures, so I wouldn't start with
Balbuena.
Yeah,
They're not bad in rotation.
Balbuena.
West Ham, with the Southampton rotation, they rotate home and away. So they're not bad in rotation, West Ham.
I really don't have any idea for first. Maybe Hood or however you pronounce him for Southampton, but I really don't rate him, and I don't think he's gonna get a certain spot in the team.
So just say your 5 in order again. Jo, I missed.
So yeah, Bednarik, Van Bissaka, Tompkins, Cedric, and the 5th guy. I'm not sure who.
Okay, we'll see.
One name that I've seen bandied about that I didn't consider actually is Cabasele from Watford.
Yeah, good man, Trig.
But I mean, are we sure he starts? Because Watford, have a guess how many 4.5 defenders Watford have on FPL. Just have a guess without
like 6, right?
A lot.
No, they have 11 4.5 defenders.
Crap.
So, are we certain that he starts? I mean, they've got options.
Every one of them under 1% ownership.
Yeah, I mean, but I forget who it was. It was probably Bo who said, good fixtures. He does have some goal threat, and for 4.5, I don't think he can go wrong. So I think he's a good shout, to be honest.
I think the thing with Watford is...
Sorry. Is that Cabasele?
Yeah.
I like him.
Yes, could I just get I gotta go for dinner soon, so I'll just go with my picks and then disconnect. So my budget picks is one of the 4.0s, probably Wan Bissaka. And then you could probably put Peltier also on here as well. I'm just written down as one of the 4.0 defenders. I wouldn't advise going with more than one. 2 is Cedric. Tompkins. 4, Doherty. And at 5, Holebas.
Who is 4? I'm sorry.
4 is Doherty. Wolves.
Doherty, okay, yeah, Wolves.
And 5, Holebas.
With Hamar at 4-0 and probably going to be in every one of our teams, especially JK, you were on Patrico Norris, you can actually get rid of one of them and get Hamar.
Yeah, if Hamar is nailed, I will go that route.
Yeah, then you can get Dorothy, right? If you need it.
Yeah, then I would pretend. Although I'm happy enough with where I'm at the minute, because I've got Shaw as sort of as my cheap non 4.0 option. But we can come on. My structure's sort of all messed up at the minute, so it's not messed up. It's how I want it, but it doesn't really allow for a 4.5 defender.
Right.
I gotta go for guys. Good talking. If you are still on after half, I will
Talk
join back.
Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we'll move on. I just realized something. If we're gonna have a cast on Thursday, say 3 p.m., we're talking on the day of a deadline. That could be pretty exciting.
Well, the deadline. Yeah, I would certainly wouldn't take that one. I'll just give you my list.
Yeah, I take it.
All right, with you, Swan. So obviously, like most guys, I'm going to stick Wan-Bissaka at number 1. My second pick, I'm going to throw in Doherty from Wolves. Third is going to be Kabasele. 4, Cedric. And 5, at the minute, I'm leaning towards probably Tompkins, but I might throw in, rather than go for somebody different, I'm going to throw in Balbuena from West Ham.
Interesting. Cool.
Apparently, decent goal record in his career. Again, the fixtures are a bit mixed, but if you get the rotation right, it could potentially work. So I think he could be an interesting shout.
Got it. Great.
So nobody apart from me mentioned Bednarek. I feel sick and disappointed in you guys.
Wait, after the friendly tomorrow, we'll see. If you start.
Yeah, Southampton's friendly tomorrow is what most of fans, they're playing Mönchengladbach. Most fans reckon the lineup you see tomorrow will be pretty close to the lineup that lines up against Burnley on Sunday.
There's just
So
two
if
players
Bednarek's
I
in,
want to.
then things change. If he's not in, then
It's hard to go with him. Trig, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I think Wan-Bissaka, I think is nailed. I mean, if it's a starting 4.0, you can't really argue with that. Doherty as well. He's in there. I've already mentioned Abasele. Am I saying that right? Somebody we've not talked about as well. The fixtures are not nice early on, but when it gets to about game week 8, they start to look quite nice. Dunk and Duffy are both 4.5.
yeah. Dunk great if you love own goals.
Yeah.
But
I was about to mention him actually as a
how
joke, but
unlucky was
not.
Dunk last season? I mean, every single game he was having something off the post, off the bar, cleared off the line. I mean, that probably... He was unlucky not to get 10 last season.
And he was unlucky not to get more own goals. There were like multiple occasions when literally Ryan saved some own goals. Seriously.
Yeah, for 4.5 with kind fixtures, I'd be quite happy to get Dunk back in. So probably Kabasele, Dunk, Wan-Bissaka, Doherty, and there's not an awful lot of 4.5s that really tempt me, to be honest.
No, that's why I don't have one.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you're not getting PVA, then Tompkins is well priced. So I'll go with him.
Late riser, you want to go?
The ones I have right now are Doherty and Wan-Bissaka. If you guys actually want to rotate them, they do cover each other's week fixtures pretty well. So you guys can look at that. I just want to talk about 2 or 3 of them outside of the usual suspects. We could have a bargain in Chambers, but that's one situation to monitor. And we don't need an Arsenal defender until game week 3. So we'll have more information there. One I really, really like and is not spoken about much. I've been reading a couple of the Botsmouth reports, and this guy called Rico. I think he's going to take Daniels' place, if I'm
he's
not
banned for
wrong.
the first 2 games, though.
Yeah, and he's been amazing. He's been crossing very, very regularly. So if you guys are playing a draft game, that's one for the future that you guys have to keep an eye on. Outside of that, there was one more that I like. Jeffrey Schluck. If he holds his position, he's out of position, so it could work out pretty well.
Yes, good shout. Very good shout.
Yeah.
How would you rank LR?
For me, I think with these 4.5 positions, you don't need to overthink it right now. I'd have Tompkins and Doherty at 1 and 2, Van Bissaka at 3. I don't really rate that Saints defense, so I'm gonna not put Cedric in there. Jagielka, maybe if he nails his position, if Everton don't buy a centre back, could be one to just play the fixtures. And outside of that, Rico, I'd say.
Okay.
I'm definitely buying Rico once he's back. I think Zoff mentioned he's not playing the first 3 games. So yeah.
Yeah. Make a good point. Maybe for the defenders, since 4.5 is dirt cheap, we give our 5 favorites, but don't really rank them because they're all, kind of in the same boat, you would think, right? Okay. Go.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka is my number 1 as well, like most. I think I'm gonna go with Joe and say Bednarik for the next position. Otherwise, Cedric. I mean, when he's fit, he's a pretty good option. He crosses a lot. He gets forward a lot. Kabasele for my 3rd pick. I do like Holebas, like Zoff said, but he is a card magnet. If Watford play 3 at the back and he's playing wing back with set pieces, I might get lured in. But it's hard to know because that other guy that they signed is Massina. I think he plays left wing back. And the other 2 spots I have them here. I think Tompkins is great value. Good on set pieces and a million less than Van Aanholt if you're looking for the money. And then the last spot, I think Jagielka for the moment, but I mean Everton will probably sign another centre back. I think Holgate's out at the minute. I don't know when he's back, but I'd expect Everton to sign a centre back within the next week.
For me, the two Palace ones are at the top. Wan-Bissaka and Tompkins. I think you can change them if the 0.5 gets you something over there, and you don't want to do double Palace, and you can move on from Tompkins. But I would have them 1 and 2. I do like Doherty, and I. As has been pointed out, they do rotate with Palace pretty nicely, especially for the game weeks where Palace has a difficult one. I think it's game week 3. I think Wolves might have Newcastle. I don't quite remember, but I have to go back and take a look. But Narek is 4 right now. Again, based on tomorrow, if he might move up that list because at 4.0, if he's starting with Burnley, the first fixture, I think that's too hard to turn down. And then let's say and then we would have Kabasele. Or since I'm Polish too, we can call him Kabasa and go from there. Makes it easy. So from that, Jagielka at 4.5 has been mentioned a little bit. He's a very interesting option. I mean, the new guy they signed at 5. Name's eluding me at the moment. He would. Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know if he's a threat to Jag's position. Jags is starting the first.
No, he's a left back.
Okay. So then
it'll be Baines. Baines would be a threat there.
Yeah. I mean, Phil's old now, but it's if you want to take a pure punt in that defense with those fixtures, and Pickford in goal, I think Jags might be a decent shout. All right, that was our whole agenda. So, JK, I know Pirlo said it's okay. Do we want to hold off the Rate My Team until Thursday, or do you want to?
I mean, I won't be here, but I can easily leave it in the group and I can watch it back, or you guys can send me feedback because mine wasn't so much an R&T as more of a disruption about structure and price points, but there's so much up in the air for the next 2 or 3 days in terms of transfers and friendlies and looking at lineups that it's probably worth holding off.
Yeah. Good point about structure, though, and I've come around to it. I think you do need to leave yourself a way to downgrade a heavy hitter like Sanchez after the first 3 if you want into a cheaper midfield option to upgrade.
I mean, just for example, I've got Robertson, Bailly, and Van Aanholt at the minute, so there's easily ways that one could become Mendy or one could become Louise, or I can switch out Austin for, say, Soloth and bring Jota in. There's different things you can play around with, but there's too much up in the air at this point to really properly nail it down.
And unlike last year, where we had no budget strikers whatsoever, I think we have options this year to help with that.
You saw lost. You've got the Ings potential yet.
All right. Any final thoughts? We'll go Jo.
About what specifically?
In general. In general, you like the Cunts group. TFF didn't show up again. Anything you want?
I was thinking actually yesterday about a double up in defense from Chelsea, especially now that Zoffer said Lewis is pretty much nailed. I think he's good value at 5.5. So I was looking at United double up and maybe Chelsea double up in defense, but that would probably mean going like 4 or 5 at the back. Just because of the fixtures, really. It's something I would like to look at closer because we are not settled in United attack or Chelsea's attack because of obviously Hazard's not there. Lukaku's not there either, so maybe at the beginning it will be quite interesting to invest in the defense, and that's something that hasn't been mentioned much in the chat, I think.
Not only with that, I mean, the risk is not only would you definitely have to commit to 4 at the back, that can get expensive depending on who you're looking at to go with Chelsea along with Louise, Rudiger or Moses or whatnot.
I was looking at the most expensive one, so Azpilicueta. So that would make David De Gea, Shaw, or Bailey, depends on the transfer funds. Azpilicueta and Luis. That's a lot of money tied in defense, but I think it might be worth it in the first few fixtures.
And then you'll have a pool defender too, or no?
Robertson. Yeah.
There's like 35 million.
It is true, but I'm not going with Salah, and my most expensive player will probably be Sanchez. So, I don't know, just a thought, really.
King,
I probably won't start with
front line for you then, eh?
Come again?
King, Austin, and Ings front line for you then.
Or maybe a single man front line. Maybe someone like Firmino or Arnautovic, something like this.
4-5-1, 5-4-1, yeah, maybe.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Trig.
Just what I've been saying in the week, really. I mean, I'm still I will still be tempted to get Harry Kane because, especially with you guys, it can give me a real big advantage, I think, if you start the season well, to be honest. Because it's just strange that, it's not strange. I mean, he's coming back from the World Cup. He didn't do too well in the latter stages. But, I mean, their fixtures are quite good. I think he's still very tempting. But, of course, it's hard to get Kane, Salah, and one other big hitter. And I'm looking at Sanchez a lot as well. So it's just deciding who to have alongside Salah, really. There's only room for one more 10 million plus player.
I think what might help that there is if some of the 7-5 and unders we were just talking about, if you have 2 of them in your team and they go off, it makes it a lot easier to downgrade Sanchez to a 5-0, and then you can bring in 2 bigs in the front. Be it Aubameyang and Kane, Aguero and Kane, whatnot.
Yeah, quite possibly. There's I've got about 3 or 4 different drafts, which I'll pick one depending on what happens this weekend. So we'll see.
Right, thanks, JK.
Not much to add from that section. I mean, most of you know by now I'm sort of on a flexible structure, which is why I don't have 4.5 defenders, because I don't necessarily plan a 3-4-3, 4-4-3. I don't plan on a specific formation. I want more, rather than plan my points in, I want to be able to switch fluidly around based on form or fixtures. So right now for me, it's simply going to be a case of looking at whether I want to take Mendy and whether there's anyone worth having alongside Aguero and Kane in a 3-man, or whether I just throw, say, Jota in and beef up the midfield. So for me, it's all about the flexibility. So someone like Sanchez allowing you to jump on Hazard, or allowing you to downgrade and upgrade a budget striker into an Aubameyang or a Kane or a Lukaku or someone like that. So flexibility for me is the key ultimately.
Okay, Bo?
Not really to add. It's just really a wait and see game now. Look at the Shield and the last few preseason games and see if and the missing pieces of the puzzle can kind of be found, so to speak. I'm not sure if I'm going 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 at the minute. It really depends on whether I go with Aguero or Sanchez. There is a route I can go. I can get Aguero and Sanchez, but it means Aguero will be my only City player. I'd basically have to go kind of cheap in defence across the board. So, I mean, 9 out of my 15 players are fairly nailed now at this stage. Just the last 6 to kind of fill in the missing pieces, fill in the blanks. So, not a lot left to do. So, but some kind of big decisions to be made over some spots.
Nate Riser?
Yeah, I'm with Bo. I haven't decided whether I want to go 3-5-2 or 3-4-2. And I think that's going to be a bit difference maker between all of us in terms of which big hitting midfielders we go for. Because there's a lot of good ones out there. Whether we go for Eriksen or Mahrez or David Silva or Sanchez or Mane. There's a pretty wide pool of big midfielders, and I think which ones we offer is going to decide. Because these guys are going to bring in a bulk of points. I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost.
And for me, I've always every year try to set up the team to where you can go between 3 formations depending on fixtures. So 3-4-3, 4-4-2, 3-5-2. A little bit difficult this year, trying to get the perfect rotation because I have Neves in my team right now, and there's no real great place to play him as a 3-5-2. You'd rather him just keep him on the bench, and if he comes on, so be it. But I think it is going to be the key, as we've been saying all week. Watch the Shield. Really take a look at how Mendy's used. See, how Chelsea's set up. Try to, watch the highlights of Southampton. Austin, even if he comes off the bench again, see how lively he may be. I think it might be a no-go if he does come off the bench in that lineup. But see that, Bednarik. There's still, plenty of time to make changes in the structure. Just keep it flexible because with the World Cup and everything, we don't really know who's going to be the guys firing until maybe 3 or 4. And makes it nice for us who are already in the CCL group stage. We get to watch the folks who have to qualify deal with this a lot more. We'll talk about that Thursday a little bit because I haven't seen, apart from Niemi who shared his team, I haven't seen any of their other teams, like any of the Rate My Teams at all. Maybe
we need TFF teams so we can all make sure we set which defenders to start.
Yeah,
I'm a little worried for him. He's been off FPL for about 6 to 8 months now. I think he's just monitoring quizzes and recruitment. I hope he comes back to FPL soon because he's a good manager.
Great. All right, guys. Great talking to you. We'll come up with a time, maybe same time for Thursday, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks all.
All right.
Thanks,
guys.
Thank you very much. Take care. Good to see you guys.
You too.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.